everyone, welcome to another episode of Invest in Türkiye Talks. I'm your host Efnan Han, and I'm excited to be here. If you're joining us for the first time, this podcast series is dedicated to exploring Türkiye's dynamic investment ecosystem, foreign direct investments, and why Türkiye stands as a resilient partner for investors around the globe. Each episode will feature distinguished guests who bring a wealth of knowledge to the table, including government officials, industry professionals, academics, seasoned investors, and entrepreneurs. Who better to speak with today? We are honored to host the Executive Chairman of Volex, Nathaniel Rothschild. Thank you so much for being with us today on this podcast series. I know you have been to Istanbul before, but it is a city that takes your breath away every single time you come. How are you feeling being here again?
It's one of my favorite cities in the world. I've been coming here for almost 30 years on a regular basis, and you're right, it does take my breath away every time I arrive in this wonderful city.
I want to start a bit on a personal note when talking about your business ventures. How would you describe your personal journey in the business world and reflecting on where you've come today?
So my story is unique like everyone else's. So I started out as a historian. I read history at Oxford University. I went up to Oxford in 1990, so many years ago now. I then graduated, and in England you have a concept of a liberal education where you don't study business, you study something that you're interested in, and then you move on to business if that's the course that you decide to pursue. So then I went to New York. In 1994, I got a job as an investment banker, and then I was an early entrant into the alternative asset management or hedge fund business in 1995, and I pursued that career until 2009, and then I took actually a different course, and I had a number of ventures, also with another Turkish company called Genel Energy, which was an oil business where I'm still a shareholder. And then in 2014, I had owned a dominant stake in Volex. The business got into financial difficulties. I wanted a new project, and despite having little or no experience in manufacturing, I became the senior executive of Volex in 2015, and I've been on this particular journey since then. So almost a decade. It'll be a decade next year that I've been managing the Volex business.
Right, let's talk about that a bit. So it's going to be almost a decade, a very big milestone for you and for Volex as well. What motivated you to get into that venture and to take on that role in manufacturing, having little to no experience, as you just mentioned?
To be honest, because it was a mismanaged business. It was rudderless. I had for me, a significant investment in it. I didn't want to lose my money, and I thought this is a challenge. It will be a new experience, something I can learn from, and it's exceeded all of my expectations. It's as I like to say, I'm not a kind of huge businessman. I'm a small to medium-sized enterprise, a practitioner of small to medium-sized enterprises. But for me, this was an important thing to do. I felt I had a sort of debt of responsibility to the employees of the business. I think when I took over, we had about 7,000 employees. The business made no money, had no strategy. So it's been a terrific experience.
And a lot has changed for Volex since 2015. Talk to us a bit about the changes that Volex has experienced since you took on that senior executive role.
Okay, well, I mean, I could talk for hours about it because it's been something of it's been a full-time odyssey. Let me put it that way. But the business, when I took over, we were doing around $300 million of revenue. We made no money. We had 9 sites. We had no vertical integration, so we would outsource much of our production. And today we're running at a revenue rate of around $1 billion a year. We've made 14 acquisitions. We have pursued wherever possible vertical integration, and importantly, our largest acquisition to date has been in Türkiye, and we generate now around a third of our revenues from Turkey, and we've actually made 2 acquisitions in Turkey, but the biggest one, the most recent one, brought our overall exposure up to about a third of our revenues.
Right, and speaking of those investments that you've made here in Turkey, just talk to us a bit about what they're focused on, and what impact you're aiming to achieve in this space.
Yeah, so I think the first point is that customers today, global customers, and I'm not really allowed to mention who my customers are, but global customers want a supplier that mimics their own footprint. So I think one of the things that's changed in our industry over the last 10 years is that the kind of era of mom and pops is over, and so we are a global company. We have production in not just in Turkey, in Mexico, in China, in Southeast Asia, in Central Europe, and the businesses that we've acquired in Turkey have been family-owned businesses that are very kind of Turkish-centric, but have great customers. And so what we've tried to do is we've tried to essentially adopt those customers that the Turkish entrepreneurs had built up over a period of time, and then cross-sell those customers in other regions around the world. That's been a very successful strategy because Turkey is historically, and I hope in the future, has been a terrifically good place to manufacture, because it has a plentiful source of labor. It has low costs comparatively to other jurisdictions. I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, it's great. I mean, your acquisitions in Turkey do add to your global strategic objectives, don't they?
They do. But we mustn't be complacent as an organisation, or indeed as a region, that capital and also customers are they can move, right? So we always have to be kind of on our toes and vigilant that we remain competitive in a particular region.
Well, Türkiye is growing in terms of attracting FDIs. As an international investor here in Türkiye, how would you assess investment opportunities in the country based on your experience, particularly with Volex in Deka and Murat Ticaret?
Yeah, so look, I think that it on balance, first of all, customers want to manufacture here, so there's an extremely kind of embedded customer base. Secondly, there's a supply chain, so you can buy the raw materials that you need here. I think that the government has done a fantastic job over many years attracting foreign investors, and that I'm evidence of that. I think that obviously the underlying economy today has got issues. You've got interest rates that are incredibly high. You have a foreign reserve deficit that's resulted in a kind of new economic policy that has been brought in. That has in turn strengthened the currency, which has increased costs, and therefore you have to find efficiencies elsewhere in the business. And these are issues that every country around the world is facing. If you look at Mexico, for example, we've had 20% increases in labor rates year on year. When I started a decade ago, the labor rate in dollars was around $2 an hour. It's now, I think, around $8 an hour. So these are not kind of new things.
Are you currently evaluating new opportunities, investment opportunities here in Turkey? And does Volex have any additional plans in the acquisition space for the medium term? I do know that Volex does want to reach $1.2 billion in revenue by 2027. So do you have any plans in that space for Türkiye?
We do. We're always looking, and we came very close to one transaction in the last 6 months, and we ended up sort of passing on it. We're looking at investments all the time. We've just opened an extension of our Indonesia site, for example. We've just done 3 extensions there. I was in Indonesia last week with the president-elect of Indonesia opening that site. We've just bought land in southern Turkey, southern Mexico, where we're expanding. We have a new site expansion in the east of Turkey, which will come online. So our business is about sort of continually pruning, expanding, adjusting our footprint.
What about in different sectors? So I do know that you work in the fields of electronics and cables with electrical vehicles, aviation, but are you planning on moving away from that into a very different field moving forward?
So we have we have 5 verticals, what we call. So we have consumer electronics, or consumer electricals, I should say. We have electric vehicles. We have complex industrial technology, we have off-highway, and of course I can't remember the last one. It'll come to me in a second. And the honest answer is that is that's enough for us. I want to try and keep this as a very kind of specialized. It's a very specialized business. Medical is the last one,
right,
where we're leaders in interconnect solutions for medical companies. So we make cable assemblies, we electromechanical sub-assemblies, box builds, we assemble some printed circuit boards. So it's a very specialized business, because once you start sort of creeping away from your core strategy, you become less competitive, and the business becomes harder to manage.
Of course. Invest in Türkiye does have an initiative called Twin Transformation, where it focuses on digitalization and sustainability in the business world. Talk to us a bit about how Volex has an approach to not just digitalization, but more promptly on sustainability, and how they're working towards creating a more sustainable environment.
So there's too much to talk about on sustainability, because sustainability has gone from nothing to being an absolutely kind of key part of our business. So I've written a few notes, because I think it's interesting for you and your viewers to hear this. So first of all, the first point I wanted to make is that we have decreased our carbon intensity, defined as tons of carbon per $1 million of revenue, by 28% across our business since 2019, and we have over 80% LED, that's lighting, adoption across all of our sites worldwide, and we'll be increasing this further. So that's, I think, point number one. The second point is that as it relates to use of renewables, 75% of our operational emissions come from our use of electricity, and our main goal is either to generate on-site solar energy, where it is viable, or by green energy, where it's available in the market. So we've increased our use of renewables by 172% in our last financial year, and these efforts are part of our broader strategy to optimize the use of renewable energy and reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and reduce our operational carbon emissions to zero by 2035. So, can I carry on? Because I think it's quite interesting, some of this stuff. I mean, we are in terms of our factories, we encourage them to be safe, sustainable, and operationally excellent manufacturing sites. And 60% of our sites are already zero waste to landfill, and we've achieved a global recycling rate of 82%, with much, much more work to do. We've improved our water use intensity by 35% since 2022, and 83% of our workforce are in sites with a certified environmental management system. Safety is our number one priority, and our challenge is to achieve zero injuries. 40% of our sites had zero lost time accidents in our last financial year. And then I think I also just mentioned that we were recognised by the FT 2024 as one of the sort of climate leaders in the world. And look, I mean, I believe in sustainability. I believe in all of these things. But I think what's important to know is customers today really care about it. And customers now start and come to you and say, right, what is your sustainability plan? So on one hand, I'm doing it because I believe in it. So it's a very interesting sort of dynamic that's changed in the last 2 to 3 years. A very, very new thing.
Of course. One of your goals that stood out to me is the 2035 mark of coming down to zero emissions, which is very important for our environment, and very good goal to eventually achieve in the long term. Nathaniel Rothschild, thank you so much for being with us here on this podcast series. It was an absolute pleasure, and I wish you the best in your future ventures.
Great. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you.